Hello and welcome to another Solana tutorial. Today we're gonna talk about Solana Block Explorers, a topic that is underrated in my opinion because we've been using block explorers in every single video, but we never explicitly discussed them. So that's what we're gonna do today. There are several different block explorers out there, and I wanna answer the question, which one is the best one? Spoiler alert, it's probably not gonna be a single one that is the single best ever, but it depends on your use case. But I really wanna understand what are the advantages of each of the explorers and what are they best used for, so that we as devs can easily find the information that we need. In case you didn't know that, an explorer is basically the way how you see the blockchain. Right? It's a representation of the Solana state and ledger. And I did talk about that in my video for Greed Academy. You can find that here. That's what inspired this video in the first place. So yeah, let's just get started having a look. What's the best block explorer out there? I asked you guys on Twitter, and those are the results. More than half of you prefer solscan, but funnily enough, in the beginning, the Solana Explorer was actually ahead. And I think that's because in the beginning more of the devs actually answered, and then the majority of people came in. And that's just an assumption, I don't know. Well, we'll see what the individual advantages are. Some prefer Solana FM, and the rest, I could only put in 4 in this list. There are more than that. And so I asked if there's, but nobody suggested any other one that they really prefer. So I think those 3 are the main ones. Today we're gonna compare those 3 and maybe also have a quick look at the others. But yeah, especially with those 3, since those are the big ones, those are the ones that we're gonna deep dive on. Starting with the Solana Explorer. Explorer.solana.com. I mean, this is subjective, right? So what's the best one obviously depends on what you prefer and what you are looking for. So this is somewhat subjective. However, I want to make it a little bit more objective by analyzing certain aspects. So let's help. Don't you have a dark mode? Yes, no, for almost. It's still white. Okay. Not 100% happy, but you have a dark mode. We just work with this. I spent enough time. Solana Explorers. And we're gonna have the explorers here, like the Solana Explorer. And then we're gonna rate it. And the first thing that we're gonna rate is trust. Because trust is always an important thing when it comes to tooling. Like, what's their intention? Can I rely that that stays there and doesn't change, or only changes for the better, whatever that means? Things like that. So what do we know about the Explorer? The Explorer actually is hosted by Solana Foundation. And we trust Solana Foundation. Okay, I trust Solana Foundation. This entity literally exists to provide Solana tooling and support, grow the ecosystem, and just make it better for devs. I mean, that's literally what DevRel is for. Yeah, I trust Solana Foundation, so I trust that they have the best intentions for operating this Explorer. And I think it hasn't always been owned by Solana Foundation. I think before it was the Solana Labs thing, and then Solana Foundation took over. It's not owned by Ansa. But either way, this is pretty much the official Solana Explorer, if you will. This is usually my go-to, not just for that reason. It might also be the one that has been around the longest. I don't know, I'm not that old in terms of Solana. But yeah, so I mean, let's rate this. Trust, I would give it a solid 9 because you should never trust anything 100%. So I'm not going to give it 10. Oh, by the way, my ratings are going to be from 0 to 10, random scale. And then we'll see who gets the best result. I don't even know yet because I come up with this as I go. And the next thing that we can analyze is UI UX. So the usability. How does it look? How quickly and easily can you find the things on the site? Okay, so in terms of looks, it's not an amazing design or anything, but it's simple. It's got this nice green, which is one of the Solana colors. I mean, I wish it was purple, but that's preference, not objective. The most important thing that you need to find is a text field where you can paste in your transaction ID or account address for the Explorer to display stuff. That's pretty obvious here. And it's got that button for changing between mainnet, testnet, devnet, or even a custom RPC. You can check out the current slot. You can see the transactions. I kind of like this green and red for failed and successes, but this is again opinions. Red, what is this? Pink. And another important thing that I really expect the Explorer to do, if we have an address, I need to be able to click on it and go to that address. I mean, all of them will do that, but that's just so basic that, you know. This guy, it shows the sol balance, it shows if it's got any data on there, pretty straightforward. It shows the transaction history. This here is a validator, so it will be involved a lot, and those probably are vote transactions. Yep. So yeah, in terms of usability, I mean, I have nothing that I compare with, but I would just go with a solid 6. Let's go with a solid 6, somewhere in there. Then what else can we analyze? Something like history. How far back does it go? And maybe we backtrack a bit before we go there. There are two things that an Explorer really should display. One thing is the current state. If we have an account, what's the current balance? What's the data? You know, what's on that account? What type of account it is? That's the state. A second thing is the ledger. So what transactions were there? Which blocks were there? And this is historical information. It literally says history. So the question is, how far back can we go, right? I can click a bunch, load more, but like, how far back can I really go? How much history is available with this Explorer? And maybe the easier way is to go through block and say, can I find block 1? Is that a thing? Yeah. Ooh, that's a nice block hash. 4, okay, as if that was like computed. Timestamp unavailable. Parent block hash is this. Parent slot is 0. So obviously we started at 0s. And this block only has vote transactions. Okay, all transactions, they're just 4 vote transactions. But basically that looks like I can literally go to the very first block. And the very first block has 0 transactions. And that's the block hash. And that has a timestamp March 16th, 2020, 3:30 p.m., 2:30 p.m. UTC. That's fun. We can see the very first block. That's one type of history, right? So apparently all the blocks, I don't know, if I would go to 4269, it would probably find that block. And we could, but again, there's not much there. How about over 9,000? Can check a block from 2021 and all the transactions are here. However, Serum, good old times. My question is, does it also load those transactions? Yes, it does. Even with the logs, that's actually not bad. This is a good indication for good history. But it's always a question of indexing. The history is present, yes, but the question is, how can we get to the thing that we're interested in? Because who is interested in all of the transactions from a specific block? Nobody. You're interested in transactions from your account. Do I have an account? Another UI UX question, does it support domains? Solandy.sol. Yes, it does. I get directly to the domain owner. Now, a real use case would be, can I find the first transaction from here? And this will involve a bunch of scrolling. There's no nicer way to do this. I mean, it does support quite some history. Like we're already 2 years back, 3 years back. Wow, I'm old. It does involve quite some scrolling. Again, that's maybe not the best UX. Nah! And then I accidentally clicked something and then I need to go back and then I need to do the whole thing again. Oh no. Wait, can I go? Yeah, I can do it with a button. Button press, click, button press, click, button press, click, button press, click. Hey, it fetched full history. Wow, it even says that. So it supports the full history. I had moments in the Explorer where it said no more transactions for this account, or like no more history supported kind of. So maybe they updated this and now they have the full history for every account? Maybe, I'm not sure. So basically January 7th, 2022 is my first interaction with this account And maybe it also depends how many transactions there are per account, that at some point it might not have any. And here from this account I funded this one apparently, or something like that. The first ever transaction in 2022, back in the days where we didn't use the compute budget program. Good old days. So yeah, history, I'm gonna give it quite a high. Actually, I don't know, like, if it's all there. It's possible to find it. It's more a UX issue that it's difficult to find exactly what you need. But history, I'm gonna give it a good rating. What else can we analyze? Let's do something like dev friendliness. It's spelled with an I as well. Let's just call it dev friendly. And under this category, I understand, for me as a dev, because this whole channel is about Solana development, so not everybody cares about this, but I do. And what I understand under dev friendliness is how low level can we go? Like, how raw can we have the information? And at the same time, how interpreted? So the opposite of raw can we have it? I want to be able to change, right? I want to be, like here, be able to say, oh, give it to me in raw. I want to see the bytes of the instruction data. And then I want to have it in a nicer way, from which address to which address, which amount, or just give me the accounts and the roles for each of the accounts. I want to be able to see both, right? Sometimes I need this. Sometimes I just want to have the quick what is it doing overview, and sometimes I'm really interested in what's actually happening. So I need both. And this is really something that this Explorer does well, in my opinion, being able to also, you know, show raw stuff. And this here, oh, by the way, this is another, I love how it displays this. Maybe I need to up the UX points just for this, because it shows changes in this nice red and green for minus and plus. I kind of like this, and all this is great UX, and it's dev friendly. We can see the time, we can jump around. I mean, maybe it's just because I was used to this the most, but I kind of like how that's laid out. It's super simple, but you find the stuff, or I find the stuff. So I'm gonna give this a 8 for dev friendliness. What else? I'm gonna do one that is quite broad, and I'm gonna name it indexing, for which I understand what things can I filter for. So for instance, if we go to this account, the things it has indexed are the domains for this account, solandy.sol. That's the name service SNS account. And I can see my tokens. Can I? I clicked, nothing happens. Bad UX. Oh, that's maybe another one, like how responsive it is. And then token holdings not available for accounts with over 100 tokens. So that's just not ideal. And then token transaction history not available for, you know, here we also see transaction history not available. And maybe a similar thing happens for the actual history of that account. So in terms of indexing, there's not much that it does. And even for transaction history, there's nothing that I can filter by. There's absolutely, like, I have all of the transactions, but they're neither neatly displayed in any way or indexed in a, like, it's just the transaction signatures from which block with a timestamp, and that's it. So it's like, in terms of indexing, quite bad. I don't want to give it 0. It does do something. For an account with fewer tokens, it will show me the tokens. Do I have another account? If I check my, what's this? Account doesn't exist. I used to have it. Yeah, 3 years ago. Failed to fetch token holdings. Yeah. Where does that get its money from? From here. Oh, and that's another interesting thing. This address got sent to Sol from here. And obviously, that was not my account. Ha! But check this. Where would I put that? In history? This is probably a plus for history. This account currently doesn't exist. If we check the state of that account, it does not exist. There is 0 bytes, 0 lamperts. But the transaction that we saw where we got sent the to Sol can display the post balance from after this transaction. So that's historical state data. And as far as I can tell, the Explorer is the only one that displays this. We will see. We will check this. I will check this with the others. I think this is the only Explorer that does this, which I love, which is great. Because this will tell me this was certainly not my account, because I never owned 1,000,000 Sol. I wish I would, but I never did. So yeah, this is certainly not my account. Probably I got it from Kraken or somewhere else, some centralized exchange that I bought the Sol at. But we can't figure out where that is. So that the Explorer doesn't tell us. Maybe some others will. We will see. So yeah, those are a few things that we can compare, definitely. But where were we? We were in terms of indexing. Yeah, indexing. But history, I'm gonna give you another point for history. Indexing is bad, and you can have the best history if you don't have any indexing. That is also not ideal, but at least we have the all transactions per account. Those are indexed, so I'll give you a few points here. Okay, 5 things to compare is a good baseline. I might add special features or whatever. And in terms of special features here, we have the inspector, which is part of the Solana Explorer, but really I would treat that as a separate thing that they just happen to build into the explorer.solana.com, but that's just a different tool, really. I'm not gonna give you plus points for that. So let's finally check out another Explorer, shall we? Such that we have something to compare. And let's compare with your personal favorite, solscan. So that's already one thing. It takes a bit longer to get there because it verifies my browser. Color-wise, I like this color scheme. This is looking good. It's already a bit much. Although honestly, if you go to the start page here, no, this is actually not too much. Here I don't feel overwhelmed. Maybe because I'm used to this. But then if I scroll here, this gets a bit much. And this, okay, there's also a bit here. But not as bad as, or like as bad. It's not bad. You've got a bunch of stuff here. But you already see what the priorities are. Top markets. That's what solscan, I think, prioritizes. Traders. Solscan seems to be an explorer for Solana traders. We've got the staking dashboard. DeFi dashboard. So DeFi is important. Tokens are important. Are they though? TPS. Okay, we also saw that. Average ping. And then we also slightly, but it's there, see this thing. And now disclaimer, I do not endorse any of the things that you see on screen. For this video, I will not remove ads, which I usually do. I do not like having advertisement for stuff in my videos, especially if they come with words like free airdrop. You know, I do not endorse that. I don't like it. And that is probably already the main reason why I do not like this Explorer anymore. It used to be my go-to, but in my videos, I basically can't use it anymore because it's just too much advertisement. And in all of my other videos, I edit out the advertisement. In the greed video, I had to cut out those parts. And that's just unnecessary work that I don't want to do. But let's compare. Let's also go to solandy.sol. And again, we have advertisement here. And then check this out. For now, it's okay. No, it's okay. We don't get advertisement. Great. But we even here have the buy, exchange, tip to tip the account's owner. What does that do? What would happen if I try to tip? Compute budget, transfer sol, and then memo. Okay, so I mean, that's nice. Solscan doesn't take a cut of the tip, so at least that's cool. But I don't know. I don't know. Sure, have a link where you can tip. Things that I enjoy in terms of UX is that it shows the current price. That's nice. The Explorer doesn't do that. The Explorer is pure. No, we talk about Sol, which is kind of for my videos also, if you're a dev, also kind of, you don't want to get distracted with prices. Especially when working on DevNet. But yeah, I have 400 tokens and they're not even worth $40. How did I get so many shitcoins? People sent them to me. If you want to send me shitcoins, feel free. Funded by, this is also cool. Funded by, we didn't have to scroll through all the transactions. We actually have it right here. It's right here. January 7th. At this transaction. Wow, that was much faster to find this. And the transaction is also here. So we have the history for that. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. That's good indexing and good history. It shows the .sol names, which I would judge as good UX. Could be misleading at sometimes. And plays in the hands of scammers as well. Because, you know, I get advertisement instead of just addresses. But if we wouldn't have so much spam, hide spam transactions. Nope, doesn't remove them. So we have a bunch more filters here. And also in terms of indexing, you know, we have a bunch here. Wait, hold on. First though, can I Show 10 per page, 40 is the max. If I were interested in like old transactions, I will also need to click through here, right? Let's see how far I need to click through to get to the beginning. We are already at 3 years ago, and I think I can change this as well to the actual UTC time. This is nice. Also great UX, delivers you what you want. So we need to go back until January, so we're almost there. And that's it. Here we are at the beginning, and we would also find this transaction here at the beginning and everything else. So that's actually quite cool. History looks good, and the way this is displayed here, also we got the signature, we got the block, the fee payer, we even got the value, which is also nice. So you can easily distinguish between, you know, spam transactions and proper transfers. Is this actually the first one? Oh yeah, wait, that's the one how I got Sol. Yeah. But then we can follow this. If we follow this account, right, that's also my account. If we go to this account and see how this one got funded, and nice, it displays the old transactions even if they're 3 years old. Look at that! Funded by FTX. Oh yeah, I remember. Back then I was using FTX. Good old times. Good old times. Weren't they? Weren't they, guys? The good old times when FTX was around. So yeah, here, and that's amazing UX in my opinion, we see that this address belongs or belonged to FTX. And that's very helpful because then you can immediately see, oh, they got funded through FTX. You don't need to go further back if you know, track the funds where they come from, because FTX, you know, that's pretty much where it stops. You can't analyze further without having the internal papers of FTX. I kind of like that the sponsored section here is free. Usually here and here is a flashy thing that I don't enjoy. At the moment, maybe there's nothing to advertise. But yeah, this is usually one of the things that I complain about. Solscan is smart. When I make a video about it, then they're like, no, not gonna show anything that you can complain about. I mean, works for me. Even old transactions, it just loads. And if we look at that transaction, we see the instruction details. We can look at it raw. I mean, yeah, it is kind of raw, but then it's also already decoded the instruction data. It tells me that it's a transfer. That's not like raw for me. That's semi-raw. This is already interpreted, and I mean, this is also already decoded. So, not ideal for devs. But what they do really well is they take if there are IDLs present for a program, then they will translate the accounts. Maybe we can have a look at this. Let's go back to the start page. AMM. Look, because we have it here. Let's go to pump.fun. Just check one of the transactions without analyzing it too much. But what I like about solscan, they pretty neatly write that down, right? For the global config, basement. This can also be helpful to you as a dev if you try to, you know, call a program that has an IDL. Check the program. This thing has a program IDL. Oh no, it does not. It does not. Hold on. This does not have an on-chain program IDL. And yet, solscan manages to decode that. Guess why? Because that's what's important to them, you know, the trading stuff. But if we look at that on the Explorer, like on here, this transaction looks like this, right? There's no raw. It doesn't understand what's happening here. It's calling an unknown program. So in this case, the Explorer is not as nice as solscan. Here we have the names of the accounts at least. And what happens if I click raw here? Oh, see, that's what I expect. That's the interpreted. And if I say raw, then I want this. Yeah, this looks much better. This is now probably hex for the instruction data. That's nice. That's what I want to have. That's what we also have here. I like how it looks here. Here it's just a bit more compact, but that's fine. It's there. The information is there. So that's cool. That's for programs without an IDL. Let's check one that has an IDL. Tube has an IDL on chain. So let's check a transaction from this guy. V6 route. Obviously this one will have the decoded things. That's how that looks like. Compared to here, I would also expect it to tell me that because it should have the IDL. Tube route. Yeah, here it can also tell me that. Why? Because for this program, Jupyter, Tube 6, there is an IDL, Anchor Program IDL, which, You know, there it has all the instructions and accounts, and then it can name those. So if there's an on-chain IDL, then the Explorer can also display it, but the Explorer will not make the effort to add anything that is not properly on-chain. That's why it doesn't do that for other programs. Where solscan does. Solscan will display those things, because somewhere this IDL exists. Okay, are we already ready? Honestly, it is a bit annoying, because yesterday I got so much flashy things. Do we have an ad blocker installed? Maybe Brave protects me from that. Yeah, Brave protects me from that. Nice, that's why. That's what it usually looks like. We got the flashy things. No KYC! And here also sponsored. So yeah, usually that's what I edit out or use Brave to not display it to me. But yeah, usually we get those ads. And we still get ads, you know, those we still get. Yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan of so much advertisement on every page. You know, this is not an endorsement, of course. I don't like how blinky that is. And sometimes they put the information right here on top. Wait, when does it do that for a token account? SBL token. Because sometimes here is important information, which is why you want to look there. And then there's advertisement. So yeah, I mean, once again, you see like what's the important thing here. It's the token price and it's the market cap and the holders. Where's even the token address? Oh yeah, that's here now. That's the thing that I want to copy. So also not ideal UX on the Explorer, although it will also display price actually and market cap. So somehow it also gets those infos in. It's not that it's not doing that at all. It's not doing it for every token, obviously, but like for the big ones, I guess. But the address is always here and it's always this more clean way for me. I'm not a big fan of, you know, having the token address all to the right here all of a sudden. When for other addresses, like this token account, it's up here, hold on. And then it's suddenly here, but here the token account, the address is up there again. For a regular address, it's also up there. Only for a token, it's suddenly here at the MISC, where now there's again some annoying advertisement. I don't like. Let's go back to Brave, because at least here I get less advertisement. In which category do those advertisements fall? I mean, kinda UX, but also more, for me, trust. I'm gonna decrease points from trust simply because they're displaying advertisement. And here's the thing, I don't know who's behind Solscan. I never met the people who developed this. It's been around for a while, but that doesn't mean much. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they would ever display wrong information in terms of Solana state, because, you know, an Explorer could do that. They could display misleading or even wrong information. I don't think that they do that, because I guess people would figure that out pretty quickly and that would then basically destroy their business model. So I don't think they would ever like display wrong information. But I'm questioning their intention. Granted, they are a business. They need to make money. In order to cover development costs and cost for service and everything, you need to have income. And the Web 2 way of dealing with this is through advertisement. So that's what they do. Their choice. But when you compare that to an Explorer from, say, the Solana Foundation, who allocate those resources such that we have the tools available for free, they don't want to make money with the Explorer. Definitely not. They don't need to. That's the difference. So Solscan needs to make money. So they need to somehow capitalize on something. Welcome to capitalism. And they choose to do it through advertisement. So, you know, and the things they advertise for, obviously, is probably the things that pay best, and probably some of them are shady. I can't tell. I'm not gonna even try or analyze this. I'm just not gonna interact with them. And then some people click on that and they're like, oh yeah, free money, sure, give it to me. Give me that free airdrop or whatever. Let me game with no KYC. I'm not interested and I don't want to be displayed the temptation. So I don't trust you, Solscan. It's not that I don't trust you, it's just like, let's go for below average, simply for the advertisement and where that could lead me. UI UX is pretty good though. If we go back to Brave where we don't see the advertisement, then, you know, we can click through that. We can hide spam transactions, although I don't know what that does. I'm gonna analyze this more, but I'm gonna give you 7 to 8. I would have given it a 7, but I'm already gonna increase it by 1 because they display the names of known exchanges. That's pretty cool. It could also be under indexing, kind of, you know, it's blurry what is where really. History also quite good. Like we could go back to old transactions and even saw the one that funded it. So that's a cool feature. Dev friendliness, I don't know. I will give it a solid 5. I'm like, mostly the stuff is there, but it's just not displayed as nicely as I would like to. Like for dev stuff, like usually I don't go to solscan for dev stuff. And again, it's somewhat subjective, admittedly. This is still somewhat subjective. And indexing. This is probably one of the strong suits of solscan actually, because we can look at a lot of things, not just the domains. Here we also have all of the tokens, and because there are so many, we can even search. Look, LC anti-social token. Ah, that's cool. So that's nice. That's good UX. We can search for stuff. It displays tokens and NFTs. There's a separate page even. Oh no, that's called portfolio then. This portfolio page where we can see all the tokens, all the NFTs, and even see NFTs are indexed. That's cool, but the NFTs seem to be all broken. What else is there? Transfers. This is probably the best feature of solscan, or the one that sets it apart from the other block explorers. I can filter by transfers, and not just SPL token transfers, where we see, you know, we received stuff, but also sol transfers. So if you ever want to, you know, track where funds went, solscan is probably the way to go. Those, however, are spam transactions. Yeah, they can be hidden. So that's also a great feature. Somebody sent me a sol again. Oh, damn it. Thank you, Attesto, for sending me that sol. However, I just did my taxes and apparently I forgot this one shit. And this is again historical data. Look at that. This is historical data because one sol back then was $22 and now here it was $126. So, I mean, this kind of historical data it has, but this kind of historical data it doesn't. Or does it? Yeah, this kind of historical data, what the price was back then, it can tell me, but not what the post balance of each of the accounts were. And as a dev, I would be more interested in that actually. Because then I can tell, okay, so how much sol did I have on that account then? Did that mean that account was just newly created? Did I transfer out everything? You know, those kind of things. Then you want to have the historical state. And this doesn't support that. But the historical price it supports. So again, you see the intention of solscan. You see who it's made for. It's made for the people who are interested in price and trading and, you know, making money kind of. That's why they always, you know, write the price next to the sol. Okay, anyway, where were we? We were at transfers. If we know how much we transferred, exactly one sol, then we can even filter by that. That's cool. Or we can filter by value min max. Transfer values are only available for the past 1 year. Yeah, okay, so if it's further back, then that's not available. And then it displays it as the current price, I guess. So that could be also confusing. Sometimes it's back in 2022, we didn't have that price. Or did we? What's the current price? No, it's the current price. Okay, still. I also like this, the action here, what kind of a transfer it is. So you can filter by a lot of things. You can filter by an address. So that is really cool. Like how you can filter here. Pretty neat. Yeah, so I would put that under indexing because you need to have an index for being able to filter. So I'm gonna give you 9 points for indexing because that's pretty, at least when it comes to, you know, transfers and that stuff. Of course, they don't have everything indexed. So much more that you can index, but they have CNFTs. Yep, that's that. Okay, next up, Solana FM. I like the color scheme. It's nice and purple, but again, that's subjective and purple is my favorite color. Nice and simplistic. I like it. I don't feel overwhelmed when looking at this page. Down here we can change, you know, from DevNet to mainnet. Hold on, I'm just gonna move, wrong thing. I am just gonna move out of the way here for a second and look here. We have a developer mode. And we have a dark mode. Isn't that nice? And then we have settings. Choose whether to separate sol and token transfers into 2 different tabs. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. Default list of actions that will be hidden from the transfers page. So we have the whole settings thing. Oh, actually a lot of things that we can customize here. We can upload our own IDLs. So that's what's hiding behind me. So now let's also go to solandy.sol. It does display my net worth. I'm rich, yo. Oh, and that's nice. I split sol transfers and SPL transfers. But no transfers found. No transfers found. Why? Because we have a limit of 30 days. Okay, so you really need to know in which window you're looking, which is a bit annoying. Let's say this is also annoying UX. Come on. When was it? 2022? Oh, this isn't. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. January 2023. 2022! I cannot write the year. I cannot. There's no. This is bad UX. And if I click to the. Do you see that? This is really bad UX. I mean, not that they have bad UX in general, but this is annoying. So, January. No transfers found. But I'm sure that there are some. So, yeah, this is a bit annoying. Does it find my tokens? At least it can display my tokens. NFTs. Oh, but here it has the images. Oh, look, I have one of those. And this one. Does it do CNFTs? I don't know. Yeah, so I can go all the way back. Oh, this is gonna take a long time though to get there. But there's a better way. Hold on. Here, because we can filter stuff. We can filter by programs, even by instructions, and by tokens. Can I just say? But this will just filter the current page, right? So if I go system program, then it will display all of the ones that contain the system program, but I'm still at the same page then, no? No, it does not. Then I don't take as many clicks to go back. Okay. But it takes longer to load as well. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. But it dynamically loads them. That's also cool. They come in one by one. And can I have 2 years ago? I want to have the time. Change that here. Not relative, but UTC time. So that's again a bit annoying. Having to click through so much. The system program is just everywhere. But yeah, the relative time doesn't really... Okay, so this is too annoying for me to get to the first one. But if we already know it, can just go for the hash, enter the hash. It's there, the historical data is there. It's just not so easy to find. And we see this guy sent to Solandy, so it decodes that as the address. It even shows transaction size, that's interesting. And here we have some options as well. So this is the compact way. We can expand all of that and then see source and destination. And as for the data, this is actually quite nice. It displays it here with discriminator and Lamperts. That's a pretty way. We can also see it in hex. That's what we're used to from the Explorer when we do it raw. In raw, that's in base 64. We can do base 58. So we've got a lot of options here. And in JSON, that's decoded. It's pretty much what we see as pretty, but more pretty or less pretty in JSON. JSON is less pretty than pretty. Yeah, so that's cool. Also the logs, we can say we want it raw, so that's the actual text, and pretty is, you know, just nicer formatted. Yeah, let's check the same transaction as before. Does this one have an anchor IDL? Here didn't have a program IDL, but here it does have a program IDL. So that's cool, which means that also this guy, yep, manages to decode. And they say which one is writable and which one is a signer. It might be confusing at first if you see it first, what do those things mean. But yeah, the fact that I can have it as raw or even as hex is pretty cool. And even the events, oh look at that. So that's the inner instructions, the self-log CPI, that's the events that it displays here. And the raw data from it, which we could even copy. So that's actually quite nice. Right, let's come back here and give random numbers to all of those categories, because as you by now can probably tell, this is all a bit made up and a bit biased by me. Trust, see again, I met one of the guys at Breakpoint last year who works on Solana FM. I don't know their exact role, but they were nice. I mean, like, and they were like, use Solana FM, and I'm like, yeah, sure. So, I mean, they don't have annoying advertisement, at least for now. You know, I'm gonna give them a 7. Benefit of the doubt. UI UX, I mean, because of all of those things here, I love this, and that you have so much choice here, and that you can go in the settings and change even more stuff if you don't like the defaults, and you can filter by a lot of things. I would have actually given this a good value for UI UX if it weren't for how messed up this stuff is. I mean, do you see how that's jumping around? For that alone, I need to distract at least 1 point. And is it a UX thing that I can only do 30 days? No, that's more of an indexing issue, I think. So I'm not gonna decrease points from there. But, you know, you're gonna get a 7. It's just higher than this because this just doesn't have the feature at all. So, I mean, you know, it's okay. But, hey, fix the calendar or support longer history. History itself, now, we didn't really look much into it, like how far back we can go. Probably all of them can go all the way back. Let's go back to the first block, copy one of those transactions. Could you display that to me? Yeah. So the history also goes back all the way. Timestamp, invalid date. A month ago, invalid date. So that's there. Then it's just an indexing issue. I'm also gonna give you 8. Like, this is probably a pretty pointless line. But there were times where this was not the case, that all of them could go all the way. Even the Explorer, if the transaction was too old, it just didn't serve it anymore. Or maybe that's just for DevNet. If we go to DevNet, block 1, here it doesn't have historical information far enough back. Okay, so we wouldn't expect the others to have that either, I guess. Yeah, but DevNet history is not really that important, is it? Dev friendliness, because we can show it in a pretty way, in JSON way, in hex, in base 58, base 64, like, that's pretty neat. I feel like I should give this a higher one. But the thing is, I'm just so used to this one that I don't know. I'm just gonna give it a 7 for now. And we're gonna analyze more things. In terms of indexing, I'm not that happy. It does allow me to show sol transfers and token transfers, but only for a month. And do I know when I transferred stuff? So this is annoying. I'm gonna give you a 3, just slightly above the Explorer. So what's the score for now? Which one, according to those random numbers, what's, in my opinion, the best Explorer? Let's just do an average. Solana Explorer has a 6.8. Solscan has a 6.8 and Solana FM has a 6.4. Currently, it's a draw between Explorer and Solscan. Great. Okay. We're not done though. We're not done. We can look at a few more things. For one, we said special features. People talked about transaction flow diagram. I want to know what that is because maybe I've just never used it. Oh, we can explore blocks. Can I tell you to go to block 1? Yeah, that will also do. So history also looks great. What else? There's a developer portal. This site can't be reached. Transaction inspector. Oh, this guy also has a transaction inspector. I just never used that. Again, I'm gonna treat that as a different tool. So what's that thing that you were talking about? View transaction flow. Ah, there we go. Okay, I see. The first one from the 3 years ago. Here's the transaction flow, which I never use. Okay, I see. So it visualizes one transaction, which in this case doesn't really add much because it's literally one transfer where we transferred from here to here, 0.1 sol. I guess this makes more sense for a more complicated transaction that involves, you know, several accounts. So probably one of those, but yeah, also not, I mean, maybe I just don't have a good use case for this. When would that really be helpful for me to visualize a transaction? Maybe with one of my NFTs, let's look at that. I mean, it's nice to have this diagram to see, oh, this wallet funded this account and this account and this account and this account. You don't get much more information out of these, like what those accounts are though. So my guess, this is the metadata account. Oof, I'm already lost then. This is the mint account probably. Wow, this is so does that really help me? Not really. Let's look at this one. This is the mint address. So now we're actually talking about the NFT. So this is my NFT. I find only one transaction, which is this one. Yeah, that's more what I'm used to. Here, create the metadata account, token account, the mint account, and then that's probably the addition. But yeah, you would really need to have a highly complex transaction for this flow diagram to make any sense. Personally, I prefer to see it like this, you know, where I see this one got funded, this one got funded, this one got funded, this one got funded, and that's where the money comes from. In this case, I don't see where exactly the money comes and where it goes to, although yes, because there's only one source and 4 destinations, so obviously it must come from there. But like if there were several accounts, it doesn't really matter to me. I just see what the changes are and that's enough. I'm not really that interested in the flow usually, but you might be. And then you might like those flow diagrams. Maybe for you that has a value. Maybe I just didn't find the transaction where it makes sense to have that. Again, that's because my use cases are different to yours, possibly. But yeah, I want to look at 2 more things, one of which is sea NFTs. And maybe let's check out another explorer, Orb by Helios. This was called something else earlier, I think. At least I've never really heard that. And this used to be the only explorer that supported sea NFTs. I'm not going to do a full analysis on this one. It's neatly branded with this Helios orange and has this pixelated feel. Can you load my account? Yes, you can. It's not too different. We can filter by tokens, by programs. I mean, that's kind of cool. Here I'm richer. Don't ask me why. Received. Sea NFT transfer. That's pretty neat. Tokens. It puts Sol in this list as well. Heat map. Haha, we can see when stuff happened. That's cool. I would probably need to spend a bit more time on here to really get used to it and then productively work with it. But it seems nice so far, especially considering what I can filter by here. And look, this is how it should work. Clicky, 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 clicky. Oh, I can even select the year. See, that's what a calendar should be like. Go to January and then pick the year. Nice. And then pick an arbitrary range. That's how it should work. Apply. This may take a moment, but then it doesn't find anything. Okay, that's annoying. No transactions found. Clear all filters again. Give me as many as you can. Oh wait, but that's nice. Here I have the paging up here, so I can just be like page 30. No transactions found. Okay, page 10. Page 10, we're in January to September, so we're not that far. Let's keep clicking. And I think that's the most that it has. Here it won't let me click further. So it goes back to July. So this goes 3 years back, not more. However, if I have that super old transaction from January, would it find that? It would find that if I provide it with the transaction hash. The history is there, the indexing is not. And of course it has AI. Explain me this. It's a simple transfer. This transferred to this. I mean, it's that simple. Sender transferred to recipient. Oh, that's interesting. The sender's balance decreased from 2.1 sol to sol, while the recipients increased from... So this also somehow found the historical data, which I don't see display... Or do I? Balances. Yes! This one also has the post balances. That's nice. Like the Explorer has. And again, maybe it's I'm more used to how the Explorer displays it. This is too much, like it's too many numbers. It's not as readable as with the Explorer. I mean, you be the judge, but for me, this is more readable than this. I mean, let's compare X with X. Kinda, I mean, with the colors and the numbers, I mean, for me, it's more readable. This is, I don't know. It's okay. Both of them are okay. I can have the instructions. I can copy that. I can have that. That's already parsed. Could I have that in raw? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, logs. Also not the biggest fan of having to click through that. I prefer to be able to just scroll down and go from summary to details to balances to logs. So that's just a UI thing, but it's there. Anyway, we were looking at sea NFTs. Can I find Bubblegum? Bubblegum program. This one. I want to just have transactions from Bubblegum program. So sea NFT transfers. That's as far back as I can go. So my first Bubblegum interaction possibly was here. Feepayer drip. So that's a good sign. So it's a drip NFT. Minted a compressed NFT. But like, how do I find the compressed NFT? That's my question now. Like, what's the NFT? Created 10 token accounts? Really? This seems like wrong information. So this explain is maybe also not so smart. does not create 10 token accounts. That's just wrong. So what's the NFT? We don't know. The Faceless was a CNFT collection, right? So, and here I have one. Also has a mint. Or was it a CNFT collection? I don't even know anymore. Also, I don't even know if people still use compressed NFTs. Is that still a thing? So this mint, or maybe it's just called mint. Unknown. See, mint authority is unknown. Maybe it's not actually the mint, but just the hash or whatever. Because if I were to check with a proper explorer, no, it is actually an account. That is actually, so it is a mint. No, wait. No, it's a Metaplex compressed NFT. Since when does the Solana Explorer support compressed NFTs? This is new. Hold on. I want the truth. Account not found. There, wait, hold on. Are we on mainnet? Also on mainnet. Account not found. Okay, good. So it's not actually an account. This is weird though. You display this address as a Metaplex compressed NFT. Yes. The address is this, but there's nothing at the address in terms of state. This is all just compressed NFT indexed stuff. Let's see, how do you handle this? You call it token address even. Sol balance 0 sol. Yeah, that makes sense because it doesn't exist. So it seems like all of the explorers actually support CNFTs by now. That's not even a distinction between them anymore. That's cool. So yeah, also this is not an advantage by the Helios Explorer anymore. Because CNFTs have been around for a while. So has Token 2022. I think by now all of them support Token 2022 as well. Not even gonna check that. You can, if you want to. How does Solana FM display this? Okay, Solana FM also knows about FTX exchange. Because we didn't check that. They also display that. That's cool. I wanna look at one last thing now. And that is nonce accounts, because in a Greed Academy video we came across those. This is what it looks like on chain. It's a system program owned account with those two set and then some information. I don't even know what's what exactly. We could look it up, but not so interested. Point is, it's a system program account with data. Now, the Explorer displays it as a nonce account. That's important because we do want to distinguish between a regular system program account that holds some SOL and a nonce account that is also owned by the system program. Again, that's important because if your wallet account looks like this, then it's bricked and you don't want that. Now, how do the others display this? This guy, for instance, says the owner is the system program, stakes 0 bytes, allocated data size is 80 bytes. It says that, but otherwise, it doesn't make a distinction between a regular account and this one. My regular account, looks like this, has 0 stake, doesn't have data allocated, it doesn't even show that, but it's an account. Also this one, it's just an account, right? But this little detail here is really, that's what makes it not a regular account anymore. How do you handle that? You say program. Own a system program. The rest is the same compared to here. You say it's an account. This one, oh, interesting. And solandy.sol is a wallet account even. And the other one, the empty account is just an account because it's not. Oh, that's cool. Solana FM does make the distinction that this is a wallet account. It's an actual account that can be used as, a wallet holding some SOL. So Solana FM displays that all right, in my opinion. Program is probably the wrong word for it. It's a nonce account. It's owned by the system program. But, for a user to call this a program does make sense. If I remove the developer mode, then it doesn't show the owner. But yeah, at least it doesn't call it just a regular account. Okay, fair enough. How do you handle that? You call it a wallet. No, it's not. And that is another reason why I prefer the Explorer, because those are just the things that I, as a dev, really want to see, which is why I gave this one such a high dev friendliness. And while we are talking about dev friendliness and accounts, I need to show you one more thing. For instance, for a random transaction of pump.fun, this one is a buy. We can check the accounts. For instance, let's check out the global account here. And this is something that only Solana FM does, as far as I can tell. It will give you parsed data here. The Explorer will just say that's an account that has some bytes and belongs to PumpFun. Same with solscan. But on Solana FM, we have the decoded data here. And we can again choose how we want to see it. We could just see hex, like that's what's on the account. Same as if I were to say Solana account, give me this account. Then we would also see those bytes, A7 and so on. So those are all of the bytes of the account. In raw, that's base 64. I can't choose base 58 here, but that's fine. And we have it decoded as well. Why can we decode it? Because we have the IDL. And then Solana FM gives us this parsed, oh, this is a global account, and those are the fields written into it. So that's the actual data that we find somewhere in those bytes. We find those values. And having the IDL, we can decode that, and then we can also show it that pretty. Don't ask me why those are the interesting ones, but if we expand, we see all of them. And here again, this is then clickable. Isn't that nice? Sadly, this is only done for programs where the IDL is on chain. So for my custom program, this one for instance, if I don't have an IDL on chain, then I will also not see the details of that account, not even in hex or raw, you know. That's a bit sad. If they would add that feature, then I would give the dev friendliness 9 points here. Bringing it to a draw. We can do more things than with the Explorer, actually, because the Explorer wouldn't support that. So now the final score is a neat little draw between all of them. And those are not all the Explorers that exist. There's also Solana Beach, which is also an Explorer, which tells me that this is a nonce account. So that's plus for you, but I haven't heard of anyone who actively uses that as their primary explorer. This one is mainly used for, you know, checking out validators, seeing that currently Helios is the one with a top stake. Can we also go to block 1 here? Nope. Internal server error. Yeah, it's fine, but who uses this? I mean, it's got a nice logo. I'm not even gonna rate those two. I kind of like how my tabs look. And this, by the way, is how it should be, coming to my conclusion. Each of those explorers have their own strengths and weaknesses. Personally, I mostly use the Solana Explorer for its simplicity, and it gives me everything that I need and want, especially, you know, those things in the nice colors, and I can check out all of the transactions. So I'll continue to have this as my primary explorer. However, sometimes when I want to have stuff filtered, I will go to Solana FM, and it will also give me all of the information that I need. Plus I like how it looks. And if I really need to, because I'm interested in some transfers, then I will go to solscan, because that is still the best explorer for, you know, doing that kind of stuff. It's just got the nicest index, and they are a good explorer, especially when you do like trading stuff, and you know, if you work with tokens a lot, then solscan is probably your favorite. I just personally don't like the flashy advertisement in my face. That's why I try to avoid it. And I don't really have a good reason to use either Solana Beach or the Orb, even though they probably also have some nice features. And again, all of that is just my opinion, and you can of course form your own one. I just wanted to make this video to show what is out there and what the main differences are, at least to me. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, explorers are really a very important tool, and it's probably the first thing you want to learn and understand when you start out with Solana development. Should have said that in the beginning. So we've seen different explorers. So at the minimum, you now know that there are at least 5 different ones out there. If one of them doesn't deliver the thing that you're looking for, try one of the others. Maybe it will help you get to the information you're looking for faster. Whether that's for doing your taxes or understanding what actually happened or analyzing where the funds of an exploit went or whatever it is that you might want to do. Different explorers for different use cases. Yeah, and it took me an hour to make that point, but I still think that it's cool to just look at this explicitly once and let you know my opinions. And then we can use all that knowledge again in my next videos or in those videos. I'm pretty sure that I used one of the explorers in those videos, so go check that out. You can give this one a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.